Hello everyone, and welcome to the making of Doctor Who Battle Across Time, which will also be doubling as Making a Dark Ride Part 6 and 7, which is special effects and sound editing, since these were such big prominent parts of the Battle Across Time ride. The world of Doctor Who as a whole was something I started over a year ago, though initially it was never a whole world for Doctor Who, it was just simply one ride. Some of you may know that Carnivora originally started off as Doctor Who Night of Thorns, but I realised that if I was going to have a tribute to Doctor Who in Discovery Island, I really needed to make it as Doctor Who as possible, and having these man-eating plants was a good idea in its own right, but it never really suited a whole of Doctor Who in one ride. Instead, I went back to the drawing board and came up with the idea for Doctor Who Battle Across Time, and then I soon realised as well this could even be expanded into a whole land, and with the help of Imagineer John and Revolutionary Rides managed to get a new custom flat ride built up, and using some of their existing products managed to get a shooting gallery ride and the APDR ride to be Battle Across Time. I've been a fan of Doctor Who for a long time, and I always knew that I wanted to create something themed to Doctor Who at some point, and Discovery Island did provide a brilliant base for that. My original attempt at a Doctor Who ride started as early as 2006, but those original non-CS ones just didn't really work. So when I decided to make Battle Across Time, I had to make sure that I really paid a very effective tribute to such a fantastic TV show. I needed to go out of my way to make it as close to the TV show as possible, and to include as many references to the TV show as possible. As a result of this, I think this is probably why this project worked out so well, because I spent so long looking at details, so very long trying to get everything perfect. It really was a complete labour of love, and I'm incredibly thankful that everyone enjoyed it as much as I did. And without further ado, I'll start looking at some of the detailed effects that went into the world of Doctor Who Battle Across Time, and try and show you how you can replicate them and do similar things with your own dark rides in order to give them that little extra edge.
They're Daleks, they're called Daleks.
We waited here, damaged, but rebuilding. Centuries passed, and we quietly infiltrated the systems of Earth. I am the god of all Daleks! Worship him! Worship him! Worship him!
The first thing I want to talk about is the Dalek room. The one where the big door opens and you can see all these Daleks, and there are two of them flying around. Now, this one was actually a bit of a late addition. Originally, there was a sort of blank space here, because I designed the track before I put all the scenery around it, and I sort of drew a blank after I realised my original scene I wanted there, which was going to be a view of the planet Skaro, which, for Doctor Who fans, is the planet where the Daleks are from. That was scrapped when the effect was achieved far better on the Earth picture at the beginning of the ride. Instead, I decided to add in a room using a green screen effect, like I had done with the Sonic Screwdriver ride. It's fairly simple to actually apply this, but it did take quite a bit of tweaking. Basically, the room is filmed once with the big doors in place, then it's filmed once with the same camera view from the car, but with the doors removed and green screens put in, and these green screens were taken from the iGlide custom scenery by Revolutionary Rides. Then, the room full of Daleks was filmed using a flying camera route, having to carefully time it so that it moves at the same speed that the car does. So that room was then put in with the others, and the two flying Daleks were achieved by filming two separate Daleks in front of a green screen and just moving the camera around using the flying camera route editor. I use Adobe Premiere Elements, and that allows me to build up those 5 layers and arrange them so that they all work together. So what I would have, if you watch it carefully, you can see that the layer with the door, it slides off using a transition and then slides back on towards the end. And you can tell that the layers have been used by the fading in and out as well. Occasionally, if you look carefully, you can see the Daleks go a little bit transparent. It's not a perfect effect, but I think when combined with everything else, it works incredibly well. The silence launch is another one I want to look at here. Again, I have always adored trying to use all these video effects to make rides look like they can do things that they could otherwise never do. I've been doing this since Rage of Anubis, I used it in Thalassocrator, and so it's perfectly achievable without using these green screen effects, unlike some of the other tricks that I've used. This one is very simple. Basically, I filmed the ride going forwards, and then in a separate park, I set up the ride going backwards. And as long as I made sure I timed the laser effects very carefully, and that just means trying and trying and trying again, adjusting when the lasers come in, so that I can match it up with the first ride. So I'd put these two together and I'd use a key. So for this one, I was paying attention to the second flash of the laser, so I simply matched them up, went through, sliced it, and joined them together, and then using Adobe Premiere Elements, I then went ahead and added a bit of a transition, so it just shakes a little bit, and it blasts you back out, and I think it lends to quite a nice effect in the end, and it is incredibly simple. And if there's one thing I can say is that people should really use these kind of things more frequently, because they add quite a bit of surprise to the ride. And though in reality the APDR Dark Ride doesn't quite work like this, I mean obviously it can rotate around to face backwards, if you do stuff like this it really does add an element to it just adds something extra to it, and I always like doing that. I always like surprising people.
The angels are coming for you, but listen, your life could depend on this. Don't blink. Don't even blink. Blink and you're dead. Don't turn your back. Don't look away, and don't blink.
If you were to ask me what my favourite scene in the whole ride was, I would probably say it's the angel attack scene. The angels in Doctor Who were not one of the most interesting enemies, so I knew I had to include them somehow. I actually did toy around with the effects for the angels very early on in a preview video that I tried quite a few times to perfect. The effect is a combination of green screen effects, video splicing, and simple fades in and out. Because the angels had to appear and disappear, each time I had to film, in this case a camera route, I think it was about 5 times, once with no angel, once with an angel in one place, in the next place, the final place, and then again with different lighting as well. The reason for this was I needed to just appear and flash and then disappear, and I had to make sure this could fade in and out as well, but the most important thing was to avoid having the ride vehicle go out of shot, because if you do that, then you can tell it's an obvious fade from scene to scene. I achieved this through basically filming the ride vehicle in front of a green screen, and I put that over the top of what was a flying camera route. All the angels in the end section were filmed with the flying camera route, and if you look closer you can actually see the moment when the original ride car fades out and the new ride car fades in, and the same goes with the opposite effect. When the car drops, which is again just a flying camera route, it then transfers into the next scene, and all that is that's movement. That is just the whole backdrop fading out, and then a new ride, in fact a new park, fading in. The whole grand finale was never even filmed in the same park as the rest of the ride. It didn't see the rest of the ride. So having this overlay of the ride vehicle, it cons you into thinking you're in the same ride. And in reality, what just happened in the last 30 seconds, you went from one park file to a flying camera route to another park file, and you don't notice it because you're distracted by everything that's going on. The fact that the car hasn't moved, never did. But you don't notice these things when everything else is going on around you, and I think that's probably why I like it, because it was an effect that was so... It was simple in thought, a bit more complicated in execution, but once you get the hang of it and you get it working, it looks seamless, and I think I know a lot of other people would agree with me in saying that it probably was the most effective effect in the whole ride. Looking at the time that this is taking at the moment, I didn't think I was going to talk for so long. I think I'm probably going to do this into 2 parts, and so I shall cover sound effects and some other overview stuff, such as a daytime look at the scenery, in part 2. See you there.